Be me. 24. Corporate drone. Living in the Midwest. Life is basically a series of Excel spreadsheets and reheating chicken over rice. Mom is the central antagonist of my existence. Love her to death, but she has the energy of a nuclear reactor with a loose bolt. She calls me on a Tuesday, voice frantic, says it is a code red emergency. I assume someone has died or the house is on fire. Rush over there. She is sitting at the kitchen table with her best friend, Brielle. Brielle is the mother of my mortal enemy, Ellery. Ellery and I went to school together, from kindergarten to graduation. She was the valedictorian. I was the guy who accidentally set off the fire alarm trying to microwave a Pop-Tart. She is intense, organized, terrifying, currently working as a junior architect or something equally impressive. Mom and Brielle are staring at me. Mom slides a plate of cookies toward me, oatmeal raisin, the cookie of deception. Mom says, "We have a proposition." Brielle nods solemnly. Brielle says, "It's about Uncle Langston." Uncle Langston is not actually my uncle. He is Brielle's eccentric brother who made a fortune in questionable real estate. He has a house about 40 minutes out of town. It is technically a mansion, but looks more like a Bond villain's starter kit. Langston is going to Europe for 6 months to find his vibrational center. He needs house sitters. Mom says professional house sitters are untrustworthy. Brielle says strangers will steal his ceramic cat collection. They want me to do it. I start to say no because I have a lease on a crappy apartment that smells like soup. Mom interrupts, says Ellery is doing it too. Freeze. Ask, why would Ellery do this? Brielle says she is between leases and needs a quiet place to study for her licensing exams. Mom says it's a 5-bedroom house, you won't even see each other. Mom adds, and it's rent-free plus a stipend. The stipend is significant, enough to pay off my student loans in a chunk. I look at the cookies. I look at Mom's face. She is doing the puppy dog eyes combined with a subtle fret of tears. I agree. Worst mistake of my life. Fast forward 2 weeks. Move-in day. I pull up in my beat-up Civic. Ellery is already there. She is unloading a Prius that is cleaner than my kitchen counter. She looks exactly the same as high school, but sharper. Wearing a blazer to move boxes. Who wears a blazer to move boxes? She sees me and sighs, not a hello, just a sigh that contains a decade of disappointment. She says rules. She hands me a laminated sheet of paper. I have been on the premises for 30 seconds. Rule 1, no loud music after 10 p.m. Rule 2, dishes must be washed immediately, not soaked. Rule 3, stay out of the West Wing, that is her study zone. I ask what happens if I break a rule. She looks me dead in the eye. Says, I will call your mother. Cold-blooded. The house is insane. Modern art everywhere. A kitchen that costs more than my education. And yes, a room entirely dedicated to ceramic cats. Hundreds of them. Staring. We settle in. For the first month, it is exactly as advertised. We barely speak. I go to work, come home, play video games in the East Wing. She works, studies, drinks green tea in the West Wing. We pass each other in the kitchen like ghosts. Occasionally we argue about the thermostat. She likes it tropical. I prefer not to sweat while sitting still. Mom calls every day. Asks, how is it going? Asks, is Ellery eating enough? Asks, have you two bonded? I tell her we are not bonding. We are coexisting like bacteria in a petri dish. Mom says, the universe has a plan. I tell her the universe needs to mind its own business. Then the storm happens. Mid-October, Midwest weather decides to go apocalyptic. Rain smashing against the glass walls. Wind howling like a banshee. Power goes out instantly. Total darkness. This creates a problem. The house is entirely electric. Electronic locks, electronic heat, electronic stove. It starts getting cold fast. I find a flashlight and wander into the living room. Ellery is there. She has lit approximately 40 candles. It looks like a seance. She is sitting on the rug, wrapped in a blanket. She looks smaller without the blazer. She looks scared. I ask you okay? She says, I hate storms. Voice is shaky. I remember this from 3rd grade. She cried during a tornado drill. I sat next to her and let her squeeze my hand until it turned purple. I sit down on the other end of the rug. I ask, want a protein bar? It's the only thing I can eat without a microwave. She laughs. A real laugh. Sound is foreign but nice. We eat protein bars in the candlelight. We start talking. Not about rules or dishes. About actual stuff. She talks about the pressure of the exams, how terrified she is of failing Brielle, how she feels like she's faking being an adult. I talk about how I hate my job, how I feel like I'm just waiting for my life to actually start. We drink a bottle of Uncle Langston's expensive wine. Maybe 2 bottles. The air pressure is weird. The candlelight is flickering. The dynamic shifts. It goes from rivals to survivors to something else. I look at her. She looks at me. She says, "Your hair is getting long." I say, "Yeah, I need a cut." She reaches out and touches it. Electricity that has nothing to do with the storm. One thing leads to another. It is messy and frantic and kind of desperate. Like we are trying to erase 10 years of bickering in one night. Wake up the next morning. Power is back on. Sun is shining. Ellery is gone from the living room. I find her in the kitchen. She is aggressively scrubbing a pan that is already clean. She is wearing the blazer again. Armor is back on. She says that was a mistake. Didn't even look at me. Says stress reaction. Proximity. Alcohol. Meaningless. She is listing variables like a math problem. I feel a weird pang in my chest. I say, okay. Sure. Mistake. She says, we never speak of this, especially not to our mothers. I agree. We go back to the routine, but it's different now. The air is thick. I catch her looking at me when she thinks I'm not looking. I leave her favorite kind of tea on the counter. She organizes my shoes by color without asking. Awkward domestic tension. 4 weeks pass. Thanksgiving is approaching. Mom is ramping up the manifestation. Talk. She comes over to inspect the house, brings sage, starts smudging the living room. Ellery is working at the dining table. Mom looks at Ellery. Mom stops waving the sage. Mom says, "Your aura is purple today, dear." Ellery says, "I'm just tired, Darcy." Mom narrows her eyes. Mom has this terrifying radar. She says, "You look glowing but also exhausted." Ellery flinches. I intervene. Drag Mom to the ceramic cat room to distract her. Mom leaves eventually. Ellery runs to the bathroom immediately after. I hear the sound. Retching. My stomach drops. I stand outside the door. Ask you okay? Toilet flushes. Water runs. She opens the door. Face is pale. She says, "Food poisoning." That leftover Thai place. I say, "We ate that 3 days ago." She says, "Delayed reaction." She brushes past me, goes to her room, locks the door. Next morning, I find her in the kitchen, staring at a piece of toast like it personally offended her. Smell of coffee makes her gag. She pushes the mug away. I say, "Ellery." She says, "Don't." I say, "We need to talk about the math." She says, "I am good at math." The math is fine. It's stress. She is vibrating with denial. She grabs her keys. Says, "I'm going to the library." She leaves. I pace the house for 3 hours. I count the ceramic cats. There are 214. She comes back. She doesn't have books. She has a small white paper bag. She walks past me, goes into the bathroom on the first floor, slams the door. I stand in the hallway. Time dilates. Feels like 4 years. Door opens. She comes out. She is holding a plastic stick. She looks like she has been hit by a truck. She hands it to me. 2 lines. Very dark. Very undeniable. I look at it. I look at her. She sits down on the floor right there in the hallway, legs folded, head in hands. She says, "I have a 5-year plan." Voice is muffled. She says, "This is not in the spreadsheet." I sit down next to her, lean my back against the wall. I say, "We can burn the spreadsheet." She laughs. It sounds like a sob. She says, "My mother is going to kill you." She says, "Then she is going to kill me." She says, Then she is going to resurrect us and kill us again. I say, yeah, probably. We sit there for 20 minutes, just breathing. Reality settling in like concrete. I ask, what do you want to do? She looks at me, eyes red, fierce again. She says, I want to keep it. She says it like a challenge, like she dares me to disagree. I say, okay. I say, cool, we're keeping it. She looks surprised. She says, you're a child. You eat cereal for dinner. I say, I can learn to cook other things. She says, we are not a couple. I say, we are something. She sighs, leans her head on my shoulder. First physical contact since the storm. She says, we have to go to a doctor, verify, before we tell the Council of Mothers. We find a clinic 2 towns over. Drive there in my Civic because her Prius smells like new car and it makes her nauseous. Waiting room is beige and smells like antiseptic and fear. Nurse calls Ellery. We go back. Doctor is an older woman, no nonsense. Does the ultrasound. Cold gel. Bloop bloop noise. There it is, tiny gray blob. Heartbeat sounds like a galloping horse. Fast and strong. Ellery grabs my hand, squeezes hard enough to bruise. She is crying silently. Doctor says, looks like 8 weeks along. Doctor says, everything looks perfect. We leave. Get in the car. Don't start the engine. Just sit there in the parking lot of a strip mall, next to a dry cleaner. Ellery says, we have to tell them. I say, we can wait a week. She says, Brielle smells fear. Darcy smells hormones. They will know. We drive back to the mansion, call a summit, invite Mom and Brielle over for dinner. We order pizza because Ellery can't look at raw meat. Parents arrive. Mom is wearing a shawl that looks like a carpet. Brielle is wearing a power suit. They sit down. Mom looks at the pizza boxes. Mom says, processed carbs block the chakras. Brielle says, Darcy, shut up and eat a slice. We are sitting on the opposite side of the table. Like a tribunal. Ellery is shredding a napkin. I decide to be the brave one. I say so. We have some news. Mom gasps. Mom says, you're getting married. Brielle rolls her eyes. Brielle says, don't be ridiculous. They hate each other. Ellery says, we don't hate each other. Quietly. Brielle looks at Ellery. Laser focus. Mother's intuition activates. Brielle drops her pizza slice. It lands face down on Uncle Langston's mahogany table. Brielle says, Ellery June Park. Ellery flinches. I say, we're pregnant. Silence. Absolute vacuum of sound. Mom's mouth opens. Closes. Opens again. She lets out a scream that shatters glass. Not a scream of horror. A scream of pure, unadulterated, chaotic joy. She jumps up, knocks over her chair, runs around the table and tackles me. She is sobbing. She yells, I manifested this. I wrote it in my journal. Gratitude. Abundance. Brielle is still sitting, staring at Ellery. Brielle says the licensing exam is in 3 months. Ellery says, I can take it pregnant, Mom. My brain isn't in my uterus. Brielle blinks, slowly smiles. A terrifying, shark-like smile. Brielle says, we will need a nanny. And a trust fund. I will call my broker. Brielle stands up and hugs Ellery. It is stiff, but real. Then Mom hugs Ellery. Mom holds Ellery's face, says, you are a vessel of light. Ellery looks at me like help me. I just shrug. The next 6 months are a blur of insanity. We are still living in the mansion. My lease expired on the soup apartment. We are technically roommates who are having a baby. We sleep in separate rooms for about a week after the reveal. Then one night, I hear her crying. I go in. She is surrounded by pillows. She says, I can't get comfortable. My back hurts. I'm scared. I climb in, be the big spoon, rub her back, we fall asleep. Next night, I just go straight to her room. It becomes the new rule. Rule 4, we sleep in the same bed. The belly grows. It is fascinating and terrifying. She gets cravings for the weirdest things. Pickles dipped in peanut butter. Spicy ramen at 3 a.m. Ice cubes, just chewing them. Mom is the unreasonable character arc initiated. She arrives every day with a new holistic remedy. She brings a bag of crystals, insists we put amethyst under the mattress. She brings a diffuser that smells like wet dirt, says it grounds the fetal spirit. Ellery is an architect. She is logical. This drives her insane. Ellery says, "Darcy, that is a rock. It does not have medical properties." Mom says it has energy. Ellery, don't block the flow. Mom buys a specialized birthing ball, insists Ellery bounce on it for 1 hour a day. Mom starts knitting clothes. They are asymmetrical and made of itchy wool. She says organic fibers only. Ellery wears them once to be nice. Gets a rash. I have to intervene. I tell Mom, no more wool, cotton only. Mom cries. Says I am suppressing her grandmotherly instincts. Says this child needs to know the touch of the earth. I say the child needs not to be itchy. Mom, Brielle is the opposite problem. Brielle is buying gadgets. Smart cribs, monitors that track breathing rates via Wi-Fi, strollers that cost more than my car. The house fills up with stuff. Half mystic debris, half NASA technology. Uncle Langston calls from Italy, we tell him. He says, "Fantastic. The cats will love the baby energy." He extends our stay indefinitely. Relationship check. We are weird. We aren't exactly dating in the traditional sense. No dinner dates or flowers. But we are intensely partnered. I tie her shoes because she can't reach them. She proofreads my emails for work because my grammar sucks. We argue about names. She wants something strong and classical. Eleanor, Victoria, Alexander. I want something cool. Leo, Max, Jack. Mom suggests river, or sage, or moonbeam. We veto Mom immediately. Third trimester hits. Ellery is huge. Waddling. Uncomfortable all the time. Ankles swollen to the size of grapefruits. She is cranky. She snaps at me for breathing too loud. She cries because a commercial for detergent was too emotional. One night, 3 a.m. She wakes me up, poking me in the ribs. She says, "Water?" I stumble up to get her a glass of water. She says, "No, idiot, my water." Panic mode engaged. I turn on the light, puddle on the sheets. It is go time. We have a bag packed. Brielle made us pack it at week 30. Grab the bag, help Ellery down the stairs. She is breathing through the contractions. Huff, huff, huff. Get to the car. Realize I left the keys upstairs. Run back up, run back down. Ellery is gripping the door handle. She screams, "Drive the car, Rowan." We drive. Hospital is 20 minutes away. Mom calls while we are driving. How does she know? Psychic connection? She says, "I feel a shift in the cosmos." I say, "We are on the way to the hospital, Mom." She screams. Hangs up. We get to the hospital. Wheelchair. Triage. Get a room. Ellery is in pain. Real pain. She is squeezing my hand so hard I think she broke my metacarpal. She looks at me, sweaty, hair matted, eyes terrified. She says, "I can't do this. I'm not ready. I haven't finished the nursery." I say, "It's fine. The kid doesn't care about the nursery." She says, "I care. I need order." I say, "Look at me. You are the most organized, capable person I know. You ace tests. This is just a biology test." She glares at me. Says that is a terrible metaphor, but she calms down a little. Hours pass. Epidural kicks in. Blessed silence. Moms arrive. They burst into the room. Brielle is holding a clipboard. Why? Mom is holding a battery-operated candle because they wouldn't let her light a real one. Mom starts chanting softly in the corner. Nurse comes in, says, "Too many people. 2 visitors only." Ellery looks at her mom, looks at Brielle, looks at me. She says, Mom's out. Rowan stays. Moms look devastated. Mom says, but the energy circle. Brielle says, I need to supervise the staff. Ellery uses her valedictorian voice, says out, now. They leave. It's just us. And the beeping machines. Time gets weird again. Doctor comes in, says, it's time to push. Chaos ensues. Nurses swarming. Lights bright. Maya is working harder than I have ever seen anyone work. I am holding her leg, wiping her forehead, telling her she's doing great. She screams, shut up, Rowan. I shut up. And then, sound. A cry. Wet, angry, loud. Doctor holds up a baby. It's a girl. Messy and purple and perfect. They put her on Ellery's chest. Ellery freezes. All the tension, all the planning, all the anxiety just melts. She touches the baby's head. She looks at me. She is crying. I am crying. Ugly crying. I kiss Ellery's forehead. I say, she has your frown. Ellery laughs. Nurse cleans everything up. We are alone with the kid, swaddled in a hospital blanket. Tiny hat. Ellery says, we can't name her Moonbeam. I say, agreed. We decide on poppies. Poppy Elise sounds like an architect, but also like a human. Moms are allowed back in. Mom sees the baby. Bursts into tears instantly. Tries to put a tiny crystal in the bassinet. Nurse stops her. Mom says her aura is indigo. Brielle touches the baby's finger. Brielle whispers grandmother's genius. 2 days later, discharge. The terrifying moment where they just let you leave with a human being. No manual. No supervisor. Buckle the car seat in. Drive 10 miles per hour the whole way home. Back to the mansion. Carry the car seat inside. The ceramic cats are watching. Place the carrier on the living room rug. Ellery sits on the couch. She looks exhausted, still wearing sweatpants. I sit next to her. The house is quiet for once. Moms have gone to get food. Baby is asleep. Ellery leans against me. She says so. Uncle Langston comes back in 2 months. I say, yeah. She says, we can't live here forever. I say, nope. She says, your apartment is gone. My lease is up. I say, yup. She looks at the baby, then looks at me. She says, we should probably get a place. Together. A real place. Not a question. A statement of logistics. But her hand finds mine. Fingers interlace. I say 2-bedroom, near the park. She says 3-bedroom. I need an office. Classic Ellery. I squeeze her hand. I say, deal. We sit there, watching the baby sleep. Surrounded by unpaid bills, half-packed boxes, and 214 ceramic cats. Mom bursts through the front door, holding a casserole dish. Yells, I made vegan lactation lasagna. Baby wakes up and starts screaming. Ellery groans. I laugh. Stand up to go handle Mom. Look back at Ellery. She's smiling. Tired, messy, overwhelmed, but smiling. Future is a total mess. But I think we're gonna ace it.